Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Siquoyia Blue. She is an abstract soul singer, an entrepreneur, author, and a podcast host. Welcome to the show, Siquoyia.
Hey, glad to be here. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now, Sequoia. And I'm sure, we will be talking about how one can unlock their multifaceted potential that we learn from you. And we will learn from you first about how you have done it for yourself. If you can take us a bit about your journey that you have, so that people can learn a lot from your journey itself.
Yes, so it's sort of an unorthodox journey. I started off doing music when I was like 10 years old, and it was sort of a field that was like kind of frowned upon, especially at that time, because music was kind of not like a regular type job or something to do full time. But as time went on, I learned that you can actually do music without being famous or signed to a label. You can actually do your own thing and enjoy it and make your own money. And also, I think after a few years, when I turned like 23 or 24, after I released my first album, I got into entrepreneurship because I learned I had different skill sets, which I didn't know I had until I got older and I got into podcasting and I started Blockers Podcast. And then I actually first had a coffee line, but that didn't go the way I wanted. So I decided to pivot. So I kept doing music. Then I got into tech. So I've been in tech for 10 years, still doing my music, learning production, getting stronger with that, as well as video production. So I started doing those things by just making time to, certain days during the week, you make time to do 20 minutes of study here. And that's how I make time to do it. Because some people ask, well, how do you have time to do all these things? Well, it's just you prioritize and you still make time to hang out with family and stuff. But you say 20, 30 minutes, that's what I'm going to do on this day. And you just figure out what works best for you. And so I started doing that. And then I started my card game line, which was like, I launched that a few years ago, Dating Assassins card game. And it's going to be more card games, not going to just be for daters. Eventually, it will be just for anybody that want to play card games. I felt like we were missing communication and I wanted some nostalgia back of sitting down, talking to people and getting to know people. So that's my journey. And I still do all of it. Like some people ask, do you still do music or this or that? But I do all of it. I still do music. I do tech. I work in tech. And I'm going to do tech forever as well. Like I said, music was my first love, but tech became my second love. So I'm doing both of those as well as my podcast. And yeah, so that's been my journey, just to summarize it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sequoia. So I want to understand for the audience is that how did it happen? You understood all about yourself, about being, multifaceted. Many people use a different term nowadays, into so many things. Did you discover gradually as you went by, or you knew it from a very beginning that you can do a lot of things very well?
Oh man, I didn't know. when all I thought was that I could just do music very well. I was like, all I could do is music. That's all I thought I could do. But when I started reading books and learning about different people and getting into the real world, you turn 21, you get into school, you learn different things. I was like, oh, I can write books. I can, I can write a book. Okay. I mean, I did need an editor, but I can write the story. I can create a business and figure it out from beginning to end, And so I didn't know I could do that till later. And it was one of those things where, you grow up, people say, focus on one thing and that's it. But that didn't work for me. I felt like doing different things worked better for me because everything was different and everything was connected at the same time. And I think that's what I want people to understand. For some people, things are connected with each other. Like tech works with music and everything works together in one. So that's when I realized at 23, that 24, I could do several different things.
Right, Shikwa. So you said it yourself about being focused on one thing. A lot of people will give that advice. Sometimes you yourself will think, okay, why shouldn't I focus on one thing rather than putting my hands and spreading myself thin? So what would you,
Mhm.
if somebody says to an artist, how should he evaluate such advice? Especially if you are successful, people won't be giving you much advice. But if you are not, if you are struggling, this will come too often. Focus on one thing at a time, and this you can't be multitasking all the time. It is not possible. What should they say? What did you say to such people?
Well, for me, I say that some people do need to focus on one thing. I think some people they have to do that. Some people are wired differently, and I believe that. That's why all these terms come out: multi-passionate, potential light, and
Yeah,
all these other things.
right.
Because some people do have to focus on one thing, but I think for some people that are wired differently, like me, we excel better just dipping around in different things and being sort of a generalist. But you know, I just think that don't let good be the enemy of great. Like sometimes you can just be good at a few things and great at the one thing, and I think that's okay too. Because I think that that's what makes me well rounded. And so I think it took me years to be able to stand on that. It took me until my late 20s to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm gonna do because this works for me, and I don't have a problem with it. I like the podcast. I like talking to different people and learning about them, and it helps me grow. And also, I'm promoting someone else that needs help as well, and they can explain, give somebody else expertise. So I don't want to stop that just because I'm doing music, and it's like that doesn't make sense. I can do music when I want. I have my own recording studio, so I can do it when I want, and I can make that time. So I think that that's what I had to explain to people, like, hey, on Fridays I do this, and on Saturdays I can do this. And then sometimes I might take a break from one thing for 2 months, and that's okay because it's already out there. The music is gonna be out there, the books is gonna stay out there, nothing's coming down. So it's like, and you just never stop, but it's not always about having to do something every 5 minutes just because you're in that field, you know.
Right, right, Sikua. So let's talk about music that you just talked about. You do
Yeah.
you are an abstract soul singer. Now, I don't know much about music, but I know about these words individually. Abstract, I know. Soul, I know. Singer, I know. But if I put them together, I know nothing. So help us understand what is an abstract soul singer.
Well, abstract soul singer is a genre I made up, which I should copyright, but I made it up because I felt like I was in this journey of trying to explain my style all the time. It's like that people want to put me in this box, and I didn't want to be in the box, and and that's how I am with my life. But I created abstract soul because I just feel like I can mix rock with soul, or I might mix soul with R&B, or I might mix soul with country or something. And I just don't know what I might do. I might not have a song that's melodic, the typical melodic type song. I might do something else that's not melodic. And I wanted to be free to do that. So I said, okay, I'm not going to put myself in a genre. I'm just going to say abstract soul singer. And it just changed my life. I think people understand me more because I did that. And it's not so one track minded to you, whereas you don't expect just this type of song from me. I didn't want that, you know.
Right, right, Sikua. So, in terms of now, when did this entrepreneurship happen? Means, entrepreneurship is also, it requires a lot of, thought process, a lot of, and many a times you see creative people find that marketing stuff, that thought process of an entrepreneur a bit daunting. Even I don't know much about, marketing. I can be a podcaster, I can talk. You are a podcaster, you can talk, but business needs all these things, entrepreneur needs all these things. How did you then get into entrepreneurship, looking at the creative side of your being?
Well, yeah, that's true. I am left and right brain. So the creative side meets the logical side. That's what, that's why I said tech was important. It put me into the logical Sequoia. So, at 25, when I did my first business that didn't go very well, it was about me learning the game. Like, how does profit work? How does capital gains work? How can I get this return on my investment? How does the taxes work? What do I need to do? So that was like my guinea pig. And who do you need to work with? Because sometimes you can work with the wrong people that may not understand what's going on, or maybe you don't vibe with them like others. So it's like all those things matter. And from that situation, I learned for the next business, okay, this is how I'm gonna do it, and it taught me how to be a music business too, not just a singer, but as a businesswoman, how to handle music that way. So that situation had helped me be able to launch, relaunch Siquoyia Blue as a business, even though the music's been out there, but as a business, and then go into dating assassins. I was a total different baby. I found the right distributor. I did the right things this time. And I was able to understand the taxes. And I don't know if it's because I'm older too, because sometimes you just mature. 25 was super young. But I think if you get older, you get more mature. You start to understand things better. And so I started reading and learning the process. And then it's about how bad you want it. It's not, sometimes people think they want it bad, but then they don't want it. It's tough being an entrepreneur. It's not for the faint of heart. It's lonely and it's not easy. But if you want it bad as you want to breathe, you're going to figure out a way to make it work, and you just won't stop. And that's the key. You just don't stop. You do something every day that gets you to the goal. And that's what made me be able to build that house. And I think that that's how you start. You read, you sit down and read and research and reread and research whatever you got to do. You have to use an AI tool to explain it to you, whatever you got to do. That's how you learn the game. And so nobody can take advantage of you, because I said on my podcast the other day is that you have to learn everything. So if somebody tells you the wrong thing, you know what to do, because no one knows everything. So you want to make sure you can double check what they say and make sure you're not failing because you just listen to this one person. So that's what made me be able to launch Dating Assassins, to feel confident about it. And so that's how I started that journey to be able to navigate the business waters, if you will,
Right, Siquoia. And as if this entrepreneurship was not enough, you went and wrote 4 books. Where did this
Yeah.
time how did you get out this time? Tell us a bit about your books so that people can learn from this. But first, how did you get out time from music, entrepreneurship, and then the books?
Well, it's funny because I started writing the books at a young age. I was like 20, 21,
Okay.
and this is before I really had the income to be in the studio all the time. Because back then I didn't have my own recording studio. So it was like I had this time on my hands, and I wasn't much of a performer until I was singing on the cruise boat, because that's when I performed every night. Before I got on the boat, I was just working, and I was kind of shy. So I really was just singing at home, and I would sing at some bars or some cafes every now and then. But at the time I had time to focus on the book. So I wrote my first book, Dark Obsession. Well, the title was different at first, but I changed it. And when I wrote my first book, I learned that I wasn't an editor. I could tell a story. I was really good at telling a story, but I just wasn't an editor. So I was able to I eventually, fast forward, I had to get the book redone like a few years ago. I had to get an editor to, shout out to John Riddle, that's actually on LinkedIn. I had to get him to fix the book and correct it, which worked out. But I had to change the title. So Dark Obsession. And it's really a story about a woman that just thought that she wanted this high life. She had the fancy job. She had the nice car. She was living in Atlanta. She was successful, but she wasn't happy. And I just wanted to highlight that sometimes titles doesn't mean you're going to be happy because you have all those titles. And it just talks about the journey and philosophy, how she gets through that. Then I wrote 2 children's books during the time. And I really didn't put out the children's, Sammy Bean, which is my children's book. I didn't put that out until a few years later because I made sure I had an editor that time. So Sammy Bean is about bullying. I was bullied growing up, and I wanted to motivate kids to, just be positive and know that they're going to get through it. And also just teach bullies that we can all be friends and we don't have to bully each other and stuff. So that book is like a short children's book. It's called Sammy Bean. All these books are available on Amazon, by the way. And if you buy it, please leave a review because it helps me grow. So Sammy Bean, and then my 2 coloring books, those are just coloring books for adults. I realized during the pandemic that people were just stressed out and stuff and just needed a way to kind of relax. And I felt like the coloring book gave you something to just focus on something else. You just color through lines and get your mind off of what's going on in the world. So those 2 books are also available on Amazon. If you go to type in Siquoyia Blue, you'll see all my books attached to each other. And I also have another book coming out soon too. So I don't have the title for that one yet, but that's coming out soon too. And I wrote that when I was in my early 20s as well. And I'm working on getting that edited and polished and stuff like that. So it's a lot of stuff I've done in my early 20s that's coming out now, so it's interesting.
Wonderful, wonderful, very
Yeah.
interesting indeed. And in fact, apart from that, then you have got this whole thing, dating assassin's card game. What is this card game all about? Because that shows a lot of creativity within you.
Yeah, so dating assassin's card game. You know, I was I was watching people out in the world just dating and stuff, and also I was dating, and I've noticed that the conversation, the piece is missing. Like we're not really asking the right questions because maybe we're shy, maybe we're nervous, and we may not know what to ask. So I created dating assassin's card game because I wanted to give some nostalgia. At first, it was going to be an app, but then I said, then I got to keep it updated and stuff like that. So I said, first, let's start with the card game. And then I realized after starting the card game, I wouldn't get rid of the card game. I feel like you need something in your hand. It's that nostalgia. You can talk about all the issues that you may have questions about. So it's 150 questions, and you just take turns asking questions. And if you don't feel comfortable asking the questions, by all means, you can pass on it. I think some people think you have to ask the question just because you got the game. Once you get the game, it's in your hands. It's not, I gave you rules, but it's in your hands. So if you don't want to answer a question, then just pass on that. But just know that this is a game for you to get to know who you're dating, and really see if your values align and see if you're meant to be together, because sometimes your values don't align. You might date someone because they're title or they're attractive, but you don't, but that's not your person, and then you're stressed out and you don't really gel together. So that's why I created this card game, is to basically get down to the meat and potatoes of who the person is. And it's just a quick little game. It's not a real robust game or anything. It's just like, you ask these questions, and if you see the person hesitate or just seem like they don't really want to answer, you just yell out, "You've been assassinated, game over." But the game's not over. The point is to see why they took long to answer and just kind of talk about it and build dialogue. So that's what the game's about.
Right, right, Sequoia. Now let's talk about creativity. And you talk about creating art authentically. In these times of
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, how do we create art authentically? Means people who are tempted to create everything by the use of AI because it is so real. Help us understand this whole
Yeah.
AI into creativity versus creativity.
Well, it's so many different opinions about AI. I have people that, I know that don't like AI tools or anything, rather it's writing tools or just, um, the artwork and stuff. I've had people get upset with me, but I think what I mean by authenticity is that you can still be authentic through your art, even if it's AI, because it's coming from you and you're creating something. And believe it or not, this is going to happen. The AI is not going anywhere. It's going to happen. And I just feel like AI, there's some things I don't like about it. Of course, there's some things that needs to be fixed ethically, but I do think that it's a great tool for artists like me, someone that's real creative, to do things. It has changed my life, not just with music and art, but tech wise too. I'm able to understand technical things that I couldn't understand before, just because of me being able to create my own GPT chatbot, called Shay Chat Companion. So I was able to create my own information and learning documents and stuff like that I think is important. But I still, when I said authentic, at first I was talking about music, because a lot of times people, music can be subjective, sing this way, do this way. But even with music, you can be yourself because the landscape's changing. So you can be authentic and be yourself. But I do think AI is authentic because you created it. Just my opinion. You created the art, and yes, some people say, well, there's different pieces of art stolen from all over computer, but there's a lot of things stolen every day. Unfortunately, we're in this world, and AI is not going anywhere. And I think it's just another way to create art. And I think like I said, you can still be authentic with it, and it's just going to grow even more. And that's how I take it.
Right, right, Secure. Now let's
Yeah.
talk about self-care. As a multi-talented artist, you are into so many things. So how do
Yeah.
I decide what to say yes to and what to say no to? How does this self-care happen actually on the ground when one is doing so many things at the same time?
Well, I do make, so one of my hobbies is watching movies and TV shows,
Okay.
and reading. So I do make time for it. So basically after work, I'll make my dinner and stuff. And then I'll sit down and watch a movie or TV show till about 8 o'clock or so. And that kind of gets me away from everything. And I used to feel guilty. I used to say, oh, I can't watch TV or nothing. I got to just sit down and do this and that. But I realized that you don't have to do that. If systems are in place and you have everything scheduled, then you can watch TV, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, or whatever. And you can wind down that way and have a cup of tea and talk to your family. So I think those that's important, because if you don't have that balance, I think personally, then you're just not living, and life is very short. It's not long. It's not long. It feels long, but it's not long, especially with all the stuff going on out here. You have to have that time to live and to enjoy things that you like to do along with the journey.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about your podcast. There is so much to learn from you, and I'm sure a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of people will learn from your podcast, Blue Alchemist podcast. Tell us a bit about
Yes.
it.
So Blue Alchemist podcast, I pretty much, well, I launched it when I was 24, and then I had cold feet and stopped it. So then I relaunched it 4 or 5 years ago, and I called it Blue Alchemist podcast. Before it was called Sequoia the Revolutionist, but then I changed it to Blue Alchemist podcast 4 years ago, and it's been a baby for me, because I feel like I've been able to learn so much from different experts and stuff, and then also just talking by myself. I go on there and just give people like a story of different things I've experienced in my life that day, or it might be about something about a movie or a book I might go on there and talk about, and just try to just motivate people or give people a different perspective, because that's one of my taglines, is challenging your perspective. Like, can you think differently about this? Can you see it from this angle? So that's really what my podcast is about, is like challenging your perspective. And it's really relaxing to me. It's one of my also hobbies as well, because when I go and talk to different people, it's almost refreshing, and it's like networking, but you're right in your house and everything. And I feel like a lot of people can learn from it, because you know you're really learning free game. With no, you're not paying for it. You just click a button and play it. So I think it's an amazing thing. And I never thought I was going to do a podcast again. So I really shocked myself.
Right, right. There is much to learn from you, Sequoia, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn more about you, from you, through your podcast, through your books. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Yes, so you can go to bloggerspodcast.com and you can join my mailing list there. And for Siquoyia Blue, you can go to sequoiablue.com and you can join my mailing list there. And my music you can stream everywhere. It's available on Spotify, Amazon, everywhere you list stream music. Eventually, I am going to try to create vinyl records so people can just buy it into vinyl records once I create my second EP. So that's in the future. But yeah, you can go to those sites and you can find my stuff.
Wonderful, wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.